We wanted to display the T-shirts of women and children that were murdered and family members, to individually honor each of their lives, and to remember their deaths so that they are not forgotten and they are not just another statistic.
Let me start with 279. This confirms the assessment role to defray these.
Councilors. All right, on resolution 263, we have a series of these coming up in the near future. Just a special.
This confirms the assessment role to defray the expense of resurfacing streets.
Approval for the sale of the book and to use it to defray the cost of.
So that's it. Councilor Talarico, would you like to suspend the rules?
Direction that we heard from the state auditor report.
Today, I doubt that anybody's going to disagree with that position. Coming in and doing a totally unbiased, impartial study. The National Transportation Safety Bureau report that there was knowledge that the track had been damaged in the past and it was scheduled for repair and actually had a slow order previous to that. We can't have that Atlanta coming in and doing a totally unbiased,
Preliminary autopsy results are in on 38-year-old Joanne Foreman. Her body was found last Friday about a mile west of the mouth of the Amnicon River on the South Shore. Authorities say the autopsy shows Foreman did not suffer any massive trauma to her body and probably drowned. Some officials speculate the pilot, 40-year-old Joseph Kuth, may be practicing touch-and-go landings.
May have happened. He may have been doing some tight turns and have hooked a wingtip. We don't know if he tried to set down or what he tried to do. There was no mayday. There was no contact with the tower after he was cleared from Duluth Control, and so we just don't know.
Authorities say strong winds and muddy water hampered a weekend search for the missing pilot and his plane. So far, searchers have found a seat cushion from the plane and the pilot's logbook. The logbook may give officials some of the answers they need, but for now, the search has been scaled back. While the search continues for a missing plane and its pilot, the focus has shifted from a rescue operation to a search operation. Guard says overflights and beach searches will continue on a limited basis. Meanwhile, the Coast Guard will also conduct visual searches on their regular patrols, but there's no telling how long it will be before the pilot and his plane are found.
There's been instances where aircraft haven't been located for years. Somebody stumbles across them in the woods, or somebody out diving or out fishing hooks onto something, and that may be the case here.
Superior, Stephanie Guadian, News 6.
People and accumulating data. They will then make a recommendation to decide whether or not a long-term health assessment should be made or not. And to be honest, I suspect that the recommendation will be that yes, there should be.
If you're going to have justice for all, you have to have all for justice. In other words, the community has to come together, that we have to understand that justice for all doesn't mean just passing laws, calling on the police when it's necessary. It means, in fact, that a community comes together to deal with the issues of justice and fairness throughout our society.
Hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom.
And vote for me. Be ready this summer, but we need to.
Years, expecting that pretty much to stay the same. They're shopping.
In the city of Duluth. As part of our theme this year, many of the attractions are going to be offering food-related items, so that too reflects ways by which they can enjoy the city of Duluth.
You really believe that women have some special needs in targeted at men at work.
With assistance from their parents. It is very important, it is vital for adults as well as youth to understand the dangers of teen gambling, to understand that teenagers are at 4 times the risk of developing compulsive gambling.
Don't give out any pertinent information and any personal information over the telephone. No one from a bank or from a law enforcement agency will ever ask anyone, whether it be senior citizen or otherwise, to withdraw money to help them catch someone that might be stealing from a bank.
But in order for them to do a tricky little, sneaky little, backstabbing little deal, they eliminate this 4-mile portage, so they eliminate the boats there. There aren't any of us who are going to use portage wheels to get across here. It's not fair.
The Ely Ice Arena filled quickly this morning to hear speakers on the front lines of the issue.
Well, I say it's time we remind all these congressmen of the responsibility to the people.
Fueled by a recent court ruling on the rapidly approaching fishing opener, the crowd gathered in Ely is angry and not about to give up motorized portages without a fight. Some of today's strongest appeals were for the disabled.
Push your boat across 4 miles or up a hill on Trout Lake or Prairie Portage. I sure can't. I can't do it with my 2 good legs. But they don't care about these people. Let's keep them out of sight. Keep them out of mind. We care.
The Supreme Court must rule whether to keep the portages open, and today the crowd knows the weight of that decision.
I think it's important to understand, though, that the battle is just beginning. And the battle goes far beyond motorized portages, and the battle is really about government control of resources, federal top-down bureaucracy.
Reporters have flooded legislators with letters and phone calls to reopen the portages until the Supreme Court can rule on the case, a request turned down by a federal judge this week.
After all of the work and phone calls and letter writing that's been done, I was shocked. But I do think that there's still a chance and a glimmer, and I don't think we should give up.
I think this week is going to open them up. I think we're going to get at least a transition period for the summer, and I think we're going to get it before opening day.
It's certain when the issue will finally be resolved. Meanwhile, weeks in the courtroom, months of planning meetings, and dozens of livelihoods hanging in the balance. In Ely, Derek Hines, News 6.
Okay, ready? Oh, broke one in the barrel. Tell you what.
You guys look like you've been That's it, that's right. Okay, you're ready to go. Well, we got the next one. Okay. You know how to operate the gun, right? You never remove your goggles. It's the only way you can get hurt. Raise your hand, say you're out. Come back out, sit down. Ready? Did John come back? Yeah.
Real important for children to become readers and writers so that they can communicate in the world that they're going to grow up in. Everything is changing so quickly, they're going to want to keep on top of all the most recent events.
Yes? They're all written by authors. That's true. You're getting real warm now. Yes,
in a treatment program around the system. And one of the things that has to be dealt with in this data on juveniles is private.
Part of it's public sentiment. It could also be the attitude of the local prosecuting authorities, and it could also be the attitude of the judge. All of those people have some influence on whether or not kids get certified.
Is they should be treated quite harshly because this one in particular, the young fellows killed an old man. They could have held him down with one hand, took his money with the other. They didn't have to kill him.
The building was built in 1890. It's housed several businesses over the years, including a hotel, a bank, and a clothing store. As workers began the business of stripping away the trappings of those past tenants, they uncovered some incredibly beautiful architecture.
Nobody builds buildings like this anymore. I mean, they're just so, they have so much, you can't afford to build them like this anymore.
Businessman Rob Link is co-owner of the old building and so far has sunk over $1.5 million into this renovation. The area he's trying to recapture is from 1935 to 1947, when the building housed the old Minnesota National Bank.
Well, the granite exterior on the front of the building really looked attractive, and after a few months of searching, we were able to locate granite to match.
The granite used actually came from the same quarry as the original. Inside, he's left many of the original brick walls and pillars and has restored the 16-foot ceilings wherever possible. The new building's first tenant on the skywalk level is the law firm of Kluwer, Eaton & Butler.
We have all the exposed brick where that's available. The brick walls were built about 1894 or 96. I think that's when the building was built. And they were all sandblasted.
Still being done on restoring the space on Michigan and Superior Street, but much of it will wait until a tenant has been selected. Their wishes will be taken into consideration as the space is finished. The Michigan and Superior Street space should be a hot property with its central location and spacious airy look, but Link is looking for just the right tenant to complement his real estate. Link has spoken with several banks and other potential tenants, but has not yet signed leases for the property. It's very important to him to find someone who is as interested in preserving the character and beauty of the old building as he. In Duluth, Barbara Riles, News 6.
Croaky, but they didn't know what it was. So I thought bringing it here to them and letting them see what it is and getting them involved and getting the staff with the beach theme, singing different songs that they've enjoyed. And you can see it's been a real big success.
Well, this is just a little piggy place and you're so frantic.
All right, let's put this bait in a live well right here. Well, you know what? I'm really starting to
We might get some hot coffee, then try it again.
All I saw was the splash. But I think he was charging the boat. It was one of those rogue walleyes.
A wound. You have to work and you don't get to go out? It's not fair.
What do you think?
An invitation to the governor's opener and decided to come enjoy some of this balmy Minnesota weather.
It's too windy, it's too cold. They're not biting. Temperature is right at 40 degrees, and let me take a quick check here. The wind chill factor is going to be down around 20 out there.
This is it! 11 ounces, 16 inches long.
Carlson hit 0.
It's a true fishing story.
Well, I think the President is approaching the issue in the proper manner of bringing our European allies into any joint action that may be taken. Without the European participation, I don't think it's appropriate for the United States to attempt to go it alone.
Any business that is a business of $210 million, obviously you've got a chief executive operating officer. So there's justification.
But no one seems to want to take the job. When Carl Nolenberger left in March of 1992, his assistant, Monty Olenberger, left soon after. Since then, the administrative staff and the commissioners themselves have been sharing the workload. An executive search and 8 finalists, 3 accepted other jobs, 4 were turned down, and 1 who declined has been encouraged to reapply. The board put the job back in the wanted ads, but insists they'll keep searching until they find the best candidate.
Despite any negativity that comes our way, we still have to do what's right. And so as a board, we are determined that whomever we hire, it will be the right person for this job.
But it's nice when, you know, other bands are starting to cover your stuff, and, you know, younger bands coming up are saying, good, you know, that Nazareth and bands like that, you know, Aerosmith, that influenced them. So that's kind of nice, you know. It means that there was more to it than just, well, 3 minutes of something, you know.
I'm gonna sneeze. No problem. Oh, excuse me. That's my brains all over my desk now.
Hi, come in. Hi, Chris. I'm Libby. Hi. I'm the nurse that's going to do your screening. Why don't you have a seat? Okay, now you can look right at the light. Okay, now you can look right at the light. Okay, let's take a look at the backs.
I'm not contagious, I'm allergic, and people just nod their heads because everybody knows somebody with bad allergies.
Blow it out. One more time. Okay, now you can look right at the light.
Among the critics, some members of the Duluth Federation of Teachers. The plan calls for a freeze in teachers' and other employees' pay. Meantime, school board officials say it's the only way to avoid layoffs and larger class sizes. DFT members say teachers have carried the burden of budget cutbacks long enough.
What we would feel would be administrative mismanagement of the budget. Teachers have been making do with large class sizes, with too few materials, with crowded conditions, and education taking place. Teachers have been doing their part all along. I think that we've sacrificed, the public sacrificed, the students have sacrificed.
This Victorian beauty on Jefferson Street is owned by Bob and Peggy Berg. Built in 1904, it was designed by James Wagenstein, the architect that designed the DeWitt Sites building in Canal Park. When the moved in 6 years ago, this old house had fallen on some bad times.
We first started with the kitchen because the kitchen was completely gutted out when we moved in. There was just a sink sitting on some 2x4s and no walls, just a light bulb hanging out of the ceiling, so we had to start with that.
When they first bought their four-square diamond in the rough, relatives questioned their sanity.
And one of my brothers said, "Didn't you see the toilet sitting crooked and the bathroom sink didn't work and the bathtub quit the week after that, and then the main sewer line broke?" So they thought we were kind of nuts to move in here, but it's worked out.
With the help of family, friends, and professionals, the plumbing, heating, and electricity have been brought up to code. Remove the aluminum siding and hand-scrape the original clapboard siding, a 6-year project. The kitchen has now been rebuilt. It's a perfect gathering place for a cup of tea. For more formal gatherings, a dining room with chandelier, elegant oak wainscoting, and a hardwood floor. Up this massive staircase, a romantic sitting room off the master bedroom. It offers the perfect escape from reading or dreaming of days past. The bathroom has also been brought back to its former glory. If this renovation story has piqued your interest, Bob says, there are plenty other jewels in Duluth waiting to be uncovered.
Definitely, there's tons of old houses in Duluth, and a lot of them have that ugly old asbestos siding on them or aluminum siding on them. And a lot of the interiors that we've seen are really have been painted or ruined, but can be brought back.
All it takes is hard work, patience, and as the Bergs have proved, a sense of humor to get you through. Duluth, Michelle Lee, News 6.
Those communities that needed the money because of the age of housing stock, population, poverty within the community, were the ones that were going to benefit the most from local government aid. And
they're not strict enough, and it allows too much Minnesota in terms of the major shift in the flow of public dollars.
We have to form new partnerships. We have to get people together that have never come together before and talk about transportation in new ways. It's what we refer to as a new look transportation. It is the only way that we can move ahead. The pie has not gotten bigger.
In the morning in the rain last night from 10 till 4, so get a little bit in, at least it's something, you know, the best.
She's had 4 litters of puppies, and she doesn't go without 50 feet of the doghouse when she has puppies, and she doesn't allow anybody that close either. And She's very overprotective. She'd have never left on her own.
Hi, how are you?
Down there.
But we wanted to come down because he was really proud of graduating. He was proud that he earned an honor cord, and we just didn't want to forget him.
I think everywhere you go in Minnesota, you see tremendous examples of volunteerism. I think that's a great resource to be able to solve problems.
It's a bargain hunter's paradise, a 4-mile-long rummage sale on Park Point. Cars drove down Minnesota Avenue by the hundreds today, and the people in them were hoping to find the best deals.
There are thousands of things to choose from here at the rummage sale, from a variety of clothes to a bucket of rusty nails.
I don't know, we just the whole basement out basically. Whatever sells, because whatever we don't sell, we're just going to throw away.
What bargain shoppers like most about the sale is that they can do their shopping with ease.
It's easy. This is great. You can walk, park the car and just keep walking.
It's just like the same thing, just walking, looking, and don't really need anything, just like looking, and if you find something, you buy it.
And shoppers are finding some major bargains.
Lots. Car's getting full.
All right. Effort is put into the sale by the residents of Park Point, but they say the can turn out to be profitable.
Sometimes if you have building materials and things like that, you can make in the hundreds. And if it's just clothing, you can always get rid of a bunch of junk for $50 anyway.
It ends tomorrow, and beginning Sunday, Park Point residents will start to collect more items for next year. At Park Point, Amy Cook, News 6.
My job is to convince them right now that I am their candidate for lieutenant governor. I only hope that my supporters don't believe that I'm leaving them or jumping ship.
There was so much noise with everybody hollering, string 'em up, and that's all you were hearing through the crowd.
Jim Lum was there the night of the lynching when an angry mob of 5,000 hanged 3 black circus workers in Duluth. A frightened 14-year-old boy at the time, Lum, now 87, holds a photo of the horrible event. It conjures up painful memories he'll never forget.
I guess I was like some of the others around that were young. A lot of them were crying. No matter what happened, we didn't know, but we just knew what they're doing was wrong. You just don't take the law in your hands. But that's what they were doing.
It was 73 years ago Tuesday that a lynch mob stormed the jail, overpowered police, and dragged 3 black men accused of raping a white girl from their jail cells to their death. It happened here on the corner of 2nd Avenue East and 1st Street in downtown Duluth. The men were kicked, viciously beaten, then hanged from a lamppost for a crime it was never proven they committed. Immediately afterward, there was an effort to destroy court records and documents in hopes of erasing the horrible incident from Duluth's history.
I think people like to have kind of a false image of what Duluth is.
that the kinds of things that happen in the rest of the country don't happen here. And yet
Bob Baldwin of the NAACP in Duluth is among those who refuses to forget. He says coming to terms with the past is the only way to move forward in the fight against racism and prejudice.
And you can start to stop making distinctions based on color or based on complexion, and start making distinctions or making relationships based on some kind of moral character.
The wounds are healing in Duluth, but slowly. Just 2 years ago, the community turned out to place markers, missing since 1920, at the graves of the young men. It's too late to take back what happened, but the memory of their violent deaths and the lessons behind it forever. In Duluth, Amy Rutledge, News 6.
We shall overcome someday.
High-ranking members of Minnesota's AFL-CIO are taking a critical look at the North American Free Trade Agreement. The Executive Council met in Virginia today to discuss the possible effects of NAFTA on the state. Many say the cost of the trade agreement is too high and the benefits unevenly distributed.
The idea here is to provide for rights for all workers in all three nations and not have workers in one nation that can be exploited at the expense of workers in another nation.
Roman says the AFL-CIO is calling for amendments to NAFTA. Union officials want to see compensation for workers who may lose their jobs and stronger environmental regulations. President Clinton supports NAFTA, but is working on side agreements with Canada and Mexico. The trade agreement is expected to come before Congress sometime early next year. Should Congress give the North American Free Trade Agreement their approval, many businesses and industries will be affected, including some that have been an economic strong point for many Northland communities. Mining, and among those most strongly opposed to the trade agreement are members of the state's United Steelworkers Union.
So we see NAFTA as being a direct threat against the jobs of northern Minnesota steelworkers by accelerating the process of relocating the manufacturers who use steel to low-wage areas in Central America.
But analysts say U.S. jobs are already going south with or without NAFTA. Many businesses are quickly taking advantage of lucrative markets in Mexico, a trend some Northland Union members say they plan to fight. In Virginia, Stephanie Guadian, News 6. Jeremy Freitag is a junior high school student who needs to work on his reading comprehension skills. He decided to put in some extra hours this summer at a center that helps students sharpen the skills they learned in school. The Kip McGrath Education Centers began in Australia and came to Minnesota last year with one major goal in mind.
The main goal, I guess, is to take them where they're at, go back to where they're at, find the soft spots or the holes in their background and bring them forward so that they can, if they're in school, get to the point where they can be at grade level, and if they're an adult, to work with them in such a manner so that they can get up to hopefully make advancements in their job and have their life be of a higher quality.
Director Bob Risch says the center intends to help the students. He says the school system should not feel threatened.
I would hope that the schools will look at us with open arms, simply because we're putting kids back into school that would come to the center with higher skills, and to put them into mainstream classes that would allow them to be more successful. We do not and cannot take the place of public schools, but we sure can help them out. We have a workforce that can no longer deal with uneducated individuals, and we need to, as a community, and both public and private, need to be doing whatever we can possible to make and help our students achieve higher skills.
The center is now open in the Fitkers complex, helping students and adults alike work on those 3 R's. In Duluth, Amy Cook, News 6. The tents are up and organizers are preparing for the nearly 8,000 runners to take their marks for the 17th annual Grandma's Marathon, where a huge crowd is expected.
We are expecting a number right around 300,000 of people, whether they're in town already living here or have family and friends who come into town to watch. A lot of people don't even have anyone that they know that's running in either one of the races. They just like to be involved in all of the festivities that go on.
The organizers have been working year-round for this year's marathon, but the final month that's the most critical.
We have a crew that is working on race packet preparation. We have a crew of about 10 people who actually put the 1,000 race packets together that will be out to all the runners in both the full marathon and the half marathon. We have a crew that's setting up all the tents down in Canal Park as we speak. They've been working since last Friday.
And there's a great economic impact.
About 4 million direct dollars are put right into the local economy each year.
And They at the Duluth Convention and Visitors Bureau says the marathon brings tourists as well as Duluthians together.
By the time it gets down into Canal Park, the activities and the bands and the food, and I think a lot of people just enjoy it. And of course Friday night are the kids' races, so it's become more of a community event.
Organizers will begin to distribute packets to the runners tomorrow, off the busy weekend. In Duluth, Amy Cook, News 6.
If Superintendent Reginald Nolan has his way, the savings will be used to pay the salaries of the elementary school specialists. Money would still be left over to reduce the deficit, a proposal that many are excited about.
We need debt reduction, which I'm very happy about. We need the specialists in the schools, and we want to encourage people to keep their kids in the public schools, so I'm looking for a positive outcome for everybody.
Notice anything unusual? It's been raining a lot lately, and not just old-fashioned downpour. No, it's that drizzly kind of stuff that lingers for days on end. It's enough to dampen your spirits.
Is it that you have more cloudy days than anywhere in the country, or is that just a rumor?
You be the judge. Duluth has received 3.92 inches of rain already this month, over an inch more than last June. People are noticing. The rain has canceled local sports events, and those tourism industry have noticed a drop in business, like Karen Hoover, who runs a pop cart down on Duluth Canal Park.
Except I know we've lost probably the last 3 Sundays, which are big days for us, so that's had a big effect. And it seems like there's been at least 2 other days each week where we've had a substantial amount of rain, so it definitely is down.
And that hurt, especially when you're a seasonal business. Every sunny day counts.
It's been kind of hard with the rain and everything. The dirt's been too wet to bag.
At Nursery in Duluth, flower and tree sales have been a little slow because of the rain.
Weekends have been real rainy, and that's when we usually have our big sales. And I think it's about the worst one that I've seen, and we've been in business about 21 years now.
The rain has put a damper on things in the Twin Ports, but it could be worse. The megastorm in Duluth. Amy Rutledge, News 6.
Mitt for cooking, for barbecues or whatever. Very handy. Protect themselves from the sun. It's the official Butthead fishing cap, and that has all your assorted little fishing gear on there. That goes on just like that. In the Star Trek section here, we also have shirts, games, posters. Basically every father's got to have a tie for Father's Day. Very nice.
Well, a little bright color on the car just makes it kind of distinctive and unique, and one of our objectives was to make sure that it was a design that was unique to Duluth and that it would be uniquely identifiable as a police car.
If you think about it, more than 2 inches of precipitation, the normal conversion would be 1 to 10, so that would be 20 inches of snowfall. It would be kind of hard to get around if it were winter.
Volunteer effort on the part of the people of the city, and it's something that's very helpful to us because it's very expensive to maintain the parks. And most of the groups, many of the groups are within the neighborhoods of the park that they're cleaning, and they're very happy to see their neighborhoods cleaned up.
Us of recent date is that if all the funding comes together, the earliest that they could begin construction is August 21, and completion would take 60 days, so you're looking at the 1st of November. And if that's the case, then we would hook in at that time.
Heavy thunderstorms roared through Duluth overnight with multiple lightning strikes and high winds. This tree toppled near a house and crushed a car. Fallen trees also played havoc with power and telephone lines. In Hibbing, the O'Rourke Road was closed when the roadway collapsed. Water of the road broke a weakened culvert open, which carried the roadbed away with it. And only a short time, the paved surface had no support and fell.
I've never seen a rain that's brought it up like this ever.
There's hardly anything down there. I mean, you could probably walk in the bottom of it.
Nearby, floodwaters overran the Anderson Road in 2 places. 4-wheel drive trucks were the only way to cross. Police tried their best to keep people off the roads, but many still made the trip. The sun came out on the range in the afternoon, but the results of last night's storm are still evident. You don't even have to take your boat off the trailer to put it in the water. Farmer Ed Tackable remembers the floods of 1950 where a late snowmelt sent water over Highway 37, but says this year it isn't quite as bad.
We're so close to the headwaters here, you know, we're just, the divide is north of Virginia. It's impossible for us to get a real flood, you know.
But the flood is real enough, carrying thousands of gallons of water through old and new waterways. Now, on a county near Brimson, just about any low-lying area can instantly become a river. The current moves very fast and overwhelms the culverts under the roads. Several roads along the North Shore were closed as flash flood warnings were issued toward morning. By afternoon, water levels were dropping, but many roads were still impassable. Forecast rains for evening were slow to appear, giving roads a much-needed break. And here on the River, the waters are cresting as they roar toward Lake Superior. The water levels have nowhere to go but down if the rain holds off. On the Knife River, Derek Hines, News 6.
Severe damage. Flooring and clothes, furniture, and no flood insurance.
Thank you.
Pretty busy?
Okay.
And many hours before that, I believe. So how many tickets have you bought so far?
Well, this is just the first 3. I'm not a real heavy player, but I'm very confident these are the 3 that are going to win.
That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Thanks.
Have a good day. Thank you.
This is in honor of the Korean veterans and their 40th anniversary of their ceasefire and to draw awareness to their national reunion in Bloomington, July 24th to 28th.
NASCAR drivers live with the danger of crashes. Davey Allison himself had survived this harrowing wreck at the Pocono International Raceway almost 1 year ago. But the one that saved his life was not in a car, but in this helicopter, one he had recently purchased and just Sunday had been cleared to fly.
He was pronounced dead at 7 a.m. by Dr. Evan Zeiger, Caraway neurosurgeon. The cause of death was massive head injury, and he was never able to regain consciousness once he arrived.
The 32-year-old Allison won 18 races in his NASCAR career. Ironically, 4 of them were at the Talladega Superspeedway where his fatal accident occurred. This is not the first tragedy to hit the Allison family. Father Bobby's racing career ended in a near-fatal crash at Pocono, and last year his son Clifford died in a crash at the Michigan International Speedway.
Just wasn't to be, and again, Bobby feels the same way that we all do. How could this happen? How much is enough?
Allison had finished 3rd in Sunday's race at New Hampshire and was 7th in NASCAR money winnings this season. His death comes just 4 months after the death of reigning NASCAR points champion Alan Kulwicki in a plane crash in Tennessee. I'm Mark Barger, NBC News.
When President Clinton stepped off the plane in Des Moines today, the nature of events here did not change. The land was still flooded. There was still the threat of more rain. But his being here was a testament to his desire to make it better. From the rural farmland to its urban center, the pictures matched the stories he'd been told. Still, those with him today say it was worse than expected.
What he's saying, much worse than what he expected.
Making his way through a crowded freshwater pickup site this morning, the president appeared heartfelt and informal. So were the people here. From one person to the next, he moved through the crowd, listening to the stories they would tell.
Hello, ma'am.
My house is flooded.
I'm sorry.
Water.
Her basement, her living room and the kitchen, there's 5 feet of water in it. She's lost everything. I'm so sorry. You hang in there.
The president spoke briefly to the crowd this afternoon, talking about federal plans and progress, complimenting them on the work they've done, just trying to make them feel better.
I have seen whole towns flooded. I have seen massive amounts of farmland flooded, but I've never seen anything on this scale before.
There's little more he can do than state the obvious, but there's comfort that comes with that in times like these.
For the people here, to see that he's here, to see that he's going to support us, and these folks trying to get back on their feet, because there are businessmen, there are everybody, you know, is really, really honest to God hurting.
Clinton announced he would send a request to Congress today for $2.5 billion. It's up by twice what he first requested, but Tom Harkin declared it's still not enough.
Totally inadequate.
And already acknowledges the numbers may go well upward. In Des Moines, those specifics are still seen as far away. The people themselves are still looking for the day's water and praying things will change.
As I leave, I'm going to ask somebody in advertising to give me that's 9 months trying to develop.
Particularly now, because I know that we've had...
The most obvious question is, will my homeowner's insurance cover flooding? And homeowner's insurance has never covered flooding. It's just not the part of a homeowner's policy.
Bring a perspective of the real people who live here, that most of the people in our community, and I'm concerned that we aren't putting enough time and effort into making decisions and creating options. I think the checks and balances are really important, and that's why we have a city council to kind of balance power and make sure that people's needs are represented. I've talked with a lot of people in deciding to run for city.
Was releasing him to await further court proceedings out of jail. In June, DeKinga was arrested and charged.
That there's no one out there who thinks, well, he probably did it, but there's some legal technicality that they're dumping this case. That's not this case at all, and that's why this case has some notoriety. Of course, there are always some people that hear one newscast that you've been arrested or convicted and don't hear the follow-up newscast. But all we can do on that is to get the word out.
It's the court's next move. In Duluth, Barbara Riles, News 6.
With the recent flooding in the Midwest, thousands of acres of farmland are left unusable this year, leaving the American farmer in more hard times. The organization Farm announced today a new disaster fund to help those farmers hit hardest.
There are numerous farm groups who work one-on-one with farmers. What we need to do is we need to give them more support as they deal with the increasing load and the increasing need that's going to be out there, especially in the fall and winter months.
Country music star and Farm Aid President Willie Nelson met with area farmers and U.S. Senator Paul Wellstone today. Nelson is donating proceeds from 3 recent concerts to set up the new fund. Nelson has been working to save the American farm since Farm Aid's beginnings back in 1985.
All this attention today is because the problem has just got worse. I mean, it was bad for the farmer up until the floods and the droughts, but now it's not only felt by the farmers, it's being felt by you and me and everyone who eats and everyone who's going to eat next year and the year after.
For the past years, Farm Aid has granted over $10 million to suffering farmers. The organization hopes to use its already strong network to help Midwestern farmers during this crisis. In Hinckley, Dirk Hines, News 6.
We think it's probably several miles from the assumed position of where the plane might be.
got some people coming up from Minneapolis on Team Rollerblade, Team Alter Wheels, Team Sportworks, etc., which are some of the finest skaters in the country, which will be really spectacular to watch.